So I was there live in the Chicago United Center for AEW x NJPW, their super show Forbidden Door, the first annual Forbidden Door. I want to give you my thoughts on the show. So when it comes to the in-ring wrestling, the show delivered, as much as it could. There were 13 matches total on this show, including like the pre-show and things like that. There were actually 4 pre-show matches, and I was there to see all of it in the United Center. It was my first time ever being in the United Center. I've been to Chicago for events in like the Wintrust Arena and like in the Rosemont. This is my first time in the United Center. So when it comes to this show, there was a lot to love about this show. There were also a couple of injuries that may have prevented the show from being better than it could have been. And that's unfortunate, but I mean, that happens. Right now, the injury bug has struck pro wrestling. We've got so many guys out, like, not just in AEW. Obviously in AEW, the main players that are out are CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. They're both injured. Samoa Joe is also injured. But over in WWE, you've also got Cody Rhodes who's out, Randy Orton who's out, quite a few. So I want to go ahead and give you my quick thoughts here on the show. So the pre-show matches, the only one I really want to talk about that I think really stood out, which was a lot of fun, was believe it or not, there was a match between Platinum Max Caster and the Gun Club against Yuya Uemura, I always mess up that guy's name, and the LA Dojo, Alex Coughlin, the DKC, and Kevin Knight. Now, what I liked about the show is, or what I like about this match is that I didn't even realize that the Gun Club and that Max Caster were now baby faces, but they got a huge reaction from the crowd and people loved it. That was actually a really fun 8-man tag. It was only about 5 minutes, but they had to cram a lot of it in. Actually, no, that's not true. It was 5 minutes, they crammed a lot in, but I forgot there was another match that I love. The Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland match against Suzuki-gun, El Desperado, and Kanemaru. That was the best pre-show match. That one went 12 minutes, and they did everything they could have done. Seeing Keith Lee in there with Kanemaru was great, and of course, El Desperado is an incredible worker, working around Swerve Strickland. Just a lot of fun. I'm glad that Keith Lee and Swerve got a payday on this show, although I do wish they were on the actual main show, but you can't have every show be too long. So when it comes to the main show, you had Minoru Suzuki, Chris Jericho, and Sammy Guevara against Eddie Kingston, Shota Umino, and Wheeler Yuta. Now, I really like Eddie Kingston, and I like other members of the Blackpool Combat Club, but they were obviously busy doing other things, and I was surprised it wasn't like Eddie Kingston teaming with Santana and Ortiz. I was kind of surprised at that, but they had to throw in some New Japan people in this besides just Minoru Suzuki. This was a lot of fun. We got to sing both Jericho and Suzuki songs as they came out. That was really the highlight of it, and they would, of course, come out later in the show to do the beatdown at the end of the show, which I actually did not like. I didn't think that the beatdown at the end of the show was that effective. I know they're trying to promote Blood and Guts coming up on Wednesday, but I just did not think it was that effective and kind of unnecessary. I was hoping they would have done something like that maybe on a different episode. I mean, they kind of ended Rampage like that too. So then we had a fantastic freaking match. This was a basically winner-takes-all tag team match where the Ring of Honor tag titles and the IWGP tag team titles were on the line. We had Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood facing off against the United Empire of Jeff Cobb and the Great Okan and Roppongi Vice. Roppongi Vice was probably the most... No, FTR was more experienced than Roppongi Vice. Roppongi Vice just been, in the limelight more because they were in, maybe not. It just depends on your perspective. Because I feel like they were pushed more by New Japan than WWE pushed FTR. But to the real fans, you know how great all three of these teams were. And, Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood was injured at some point in the match, and he did come out to finish the match and actually win the match. So FTR have now they have unified the Ring of Honor and IWGP tag titles. The only team left to beat is now the Young Bucks for the AEW tag titles, and then they would be, the champions of the universe, not to steal something from WWE, which they took from Puerto Rican wrestling, because the first Universal Champion was in Puerto Rico, not in the WWE. Either way, though, everyone worked really hard. All the matches got time, so I can't really criticize. Now, the four-way match for the AEW All-Atlantic Championship, Pac won over Clark Connors, Miro, and Malachi Black. I was pissed off that Clark Connors, nothing against the guy, but I really wanted to see Tomohiro Ishii in this, and it would have been incredible because I love Tomohiro Ishii. But Clark Connors was there to kind of become a bump machine. He kind of looked like a mix between Riddle and like a combination of Riddle and Jungle Boy, right? And he was there not only to take the pin, but, to get beat up most of the time. But Miro, Malachi, and Pac, and I hope they have like a three-way between them, because I would love to see this match again just without Clark Connors. But it was actually fun. It was a lot of fun because there were different points in the match where I was for sure thinking one guy was going to win. There was one point where I was certain that Miro was going to win. The near fall where he had the submission hold on him, I was for sure thinking that was it. Like, I thought Miro was going to walk out of here with that title, but they gave it to Pac, and Pac, I don't like the idea of AEW adding more titles. They've already got way too many belts, including the Ring of Honor tag team titles and the Ring of Honor television and world titles. We don't see those that often, but they exist. So I don't like the idea of them adding more titles. It wasn't really necessary at this time. It was a better idea to do it at a different show, but I guess they wanted to do it here because, it was the Forbidden Door show. It was different companies coming together. I just feel like it could have been done a little bit better in other places. I just don't, the All-Atlantic title is not needed right now. It's just not needed right now. And but still, the match itself was fantastic. I love this freaking match. And it wasn't even the best four-way on the show. Dudes with attitudes. Darby Allin, Sting, and Shingo, which, by the way, the real dudes with attitudes were Shawn Michaels and Diesel in 95. Only hardcore fans will remember that. Against the Bullet Club of El Phantasmo, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks. Six-man tag match. Darby, Sting, and Shingo won. I love Shingo. I've been watching Shingo on the Indies since 2005. And I've been watching Sting since I was a kid. I mean, Sting's been around forever. This dude, Sting, he's 63 years old and he's diving off of things. He's absolutely nuts. Now, this was a bit toned down as opposed to your traditional Young Bucks match. They still had their crazy sequences, their kind of ballet-esque, and that's not really an insult, but some people have called it that, high spots. There wasn't too much of that, but it was fine for what it is. Then Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm. Now, this match, nobody cared. I mean, nobody cared. I like Toni Storm. I've liked her since WWE, since NXT. I like Thunder Rosa. But they have done nothing with Thunder Rosa since she won that title, and they haven't put her in any interesting programs or anything that's actually interesting. They just do matches. AEW has a real problem with doing feuds. MJF and Punk, that was a great feud. There's been a couple of other great feuds. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, for the most part, was a great feud, but I think AEW really has been lacking in the feud department. You got to have some feuds here, and this match could have had a feud, but they are both baby faces, so you don't really want to do that. At the same time, Thunder Rosa hasn't really done much, and hasn't even had that much TV time, because it's really hard to give wrestlers TV time when you've got all these different tournaments going on. I don't mean just the ones going into this show, but the ones going into Double or Nothing and debuting all these different people. There's just a lot of people who are left off TV because of that, and this match suffered as a result of it. Will Ospreay. Now, the match was fine. The match itself was good. Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. Now, this match was an interesting one because I was not looking forward to this, only because of all the people on the AEW roster, Orange is really a comedic character. And yes, I know he's not a bad worker. Never said he was a bad worker, but he seems to be somebody who's not really in the same league of Will Ospreay. Now, I will say this. Not a lot of people are. Let's keep it real. Will Ospreay is one of the top 3 in the world. Regardless of your opinion about him personally might be, he is one of the top 3 to 5 wrestlers in the entire world. This match really showed it. Dude, this match had a lot of comedy early on. but the near falls near the end were really, really good. They had fun. I think I would have probably put it on earlier in the card, but for what it was, a solid 16-minute match. You don't have to have 30-minute matches every time, folks. This was actually the best possible use of their time that could have been. Like, they used their time as well as possible. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. against the mystery opponent, which wound up being the former Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli. There have been rumors about Claudio re-signing with WWE and going back this year, and I guess it didn't happen. Obviously, it could only be Claudio or, I mean, to me, it had to be Claudio or Gargano. That's the only ones that made any sense based on Bryan's promo. I would have wanted to see Bryan Danielson do this match, but Claudio busted out. We saw him try the Alpine water slide, which he has not used since the Indies. We saw him bust out the Ricola bomb. He was back to being classic Claudio Castagnoli, the same guy who I have watched. Dude, I've been watching Claudio Castagnoli since 2005, yo. Like, going all the way back to the era of, like, Shikara, Ring of Honor, CZW in the Northeast. I've been a fan for a long time, and, you know, when he got signed to WWE and he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I was so happy for him because I thought, man, he's finally going to get his due. He's finally going to, you know, get a push. And if you remember, Paul Heyman was his manager. So I was thinking, okay, like, it's going to happen for this guy. And it just never did. He had a really fun tag team with Sheamus, but he never really got to that world title level. Even when he beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 37, I thought for sure he would actually get a program with Roman, and he did, but it was for one pay-per-view. It didn't even last. So it's good to see him here, and it's going to be good to see him at the Blood and Guts show coming up on Wednesday. Jay White, Hangman Adam Page, Kazuchika Okada, and Adam Cole. 4-way for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. 2 AEW guys, 2 WWE, 2 AEW guys, 2 New Japan guys. Okada is the best wrestler in the world, unquestionable. When he came out, the pop that this man got when he came out, dude, the building shook. This is one of the biggest pops I've ever experienced in wrestling. I went to the show with Caro Taro, whatever, and she said that it was was either her favorite wrestling show or second favorite of all time. And dude, it was amazing. These guys went out there and damn near killed each other. Poor Adam Cole suffered a concussion, and there's been talk that the dude was also concussed last month during the Samoa Joe match, and he had another one here, and that is a very, very bad. He could actually be done for quite some time if that's the case. It's going to take time off for sure. You could tell the finish was botched, but everything before the finish was absolute masterwork. Every guy got to do his spot. We saw tons of teases for stuff like the Buckshot Lariat, for stuff like Adam Cole doing the running knee, the final shot. We saw Jay White do his thing. Jay White's a guy, and by the way, Ghetto was with him, so I was real happy about that. Jay White is a guy who I didn't like him at first. Like, it took a while for me to warm up to Jay White. Like, Jay White, when he first came in, and he was just kind of the guy to take over from Kenny Omega, the guy you're going to take over from, I wasn't big into him, but he worked his ass off, became a great character, became a great promo, and I really want to see this dude. Like, I'm happy he's the champion right now, even though obviously Okada, I love Okada, but I know he's about to have a baby, so they're going to give it to Jay White. That's fine. When Okada comes back and take it back. You know, Jay White and Okada have been feuding now for like 3-4 years. I was in the Tokyo Dome when they almost did Jay White and Okada again, but instead they did Okada and Naito, and, you know, that was a beautiful story, beautiful match. Then we have the main event, Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the interim AEW World title. CM Punk was out with an injury. Presumably they were going to do Punk and Kenta or Punk and Tanahashi. I think it was going to be Punk and Tanahashi, even though I wanted to see Punk and Kenta, the Battle of the GTS. But we got that instead, and Moxley won. It was 18 minutes. It was not the longest match, but again, they used their time effectively. Tanahashi's kind of become a guy who, he's an all-time legend, right? But he's kind of the guy who you can throw in there in the upper mid-card to kind of either get somebody over or to see if a guy has what it takes. And Mox has already been over, right? No question about it. He's actually been challenging Tanahashi for months now, even before this pay-per-view was even made like a public thing. He's been challenging Tanahashi. And lo and behold, here's the match. Convoluted booking going into it, but the match itself was great. Tanahashi, we saw him bust out the high flat flow even to the outside. He's a guy who plays it a bit safer now than he did back in the day when he was doing those legendary matches with Okada, but it was still tons of fun and a good time. Moxley is just phenomenal on here. I was not a big fan of Jon Moxley, but he's really shown himself in the past couple of years to really, like when he was Dean Ambrose, like I wasn't too big into him. Like I like some of the stuff he was in, his promo ability, but I've never been a fan of his work. But he has gotten better, and he wins. And then the New Japan guys. Well, no, what happened was Jericho's guys came out, laid everybody out, and then Moxley's friends came out like Eddie Kingston. Then Moxley, shook hands with Tanahashi and put him over, and it was a nice happy ending. It's the first Forbidden Door show. I feel like in the future we have the opportunity to get better shows, but people were really saying that this was like the best in-ring show of the year, if not the best AEW show of all time. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I still feel like Revolution 2022 is the best show. I was at that show live, and that to me was the best show because every match was different and every match was amazing. This show had some stuff that was different, but not that much. I feel like you had a little bit more variety with that Revolution show. And of course, All Out last year is obviously a contender. So this is definitely a very, very must-see show. If you have New Japan World, it's on there. I think Fight TV has it as well. I was there live, so just an incredible show, and I really hope that people enjoy it. And when I say watch the show, watch the entire show, dude. Watch everything start to finish. It was, about 4 hours, maybe a little bit more than that. But it was just solid wrestling. Not too many angles on this, but it was a super show between two companies, and I hope that if they do it again next year, we might see Okada in a singles match, maybe against, I want to see Okada against Adam Page or Adam Cole. That would be a great singles match, man. What about Zack Sabre Jr. against Adam Cole? That would be phenomenal. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, I hope we get a better outing next time. But solid show. Go watch it. Thanks again. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.